Americans of Reddit, what are your thoughts on Roe v. Wade being overturned by SCOTUS as per draft reports? Everyone is talking about unwanted pregnancies, but people are forgetting about those who very much want to be pregnant but have an unviable fetus. Nature is cruel and not all pregnancies result in healthy babies. I'm talking beyond cerebral palsy and Down syndrome. I'm talking truly horrific, has no chance of survival, type birth defects. This fetus will simply be born for the sole purpose of suffering and dying. Why put them and the family through that? Why put the mother through months of knowing her child will die after birth? Months of mental anguish as people congratulate her and ask what's the due date, knowing full well that day will be the worst of her life when it should be the happiest. People who support that or simply shrug are ducking monsters, and I hate them with all my heart. And don't give me this God's plan bullshit. It's pure evil and immoral, and no loving God would ever inflict such anguish. So fuck you and your high horse you rode in on. Some states are currently drafting bills that would outlaw abortion for ectopic pregnancies. When an embryo implants in the fallopian tube, there is absolutely no chance of it becoming a viable fetus, but there's a good chance it will grow large enough to burst the tube, resulting in life-threatening internal bleeding. The evangelical authoritarian crowd believes that a time bomb clump of cells that will never become a baby is worth more than a woman's life. That is a death sentence for the women experiencing ectopic pregnancies. Yep, my wife had 3 back-to-back ectopics, left, right, left again, with tubes removed each time, and if any one of them had stayed in place she'd likely have died. Weird that this got leaked. CNN keeps repeating over and over how a leak anywhere near this level has never happened in SCOTUS history. Someone wanted this leak to stir things up before the midterms. It's either someone trying to warn people what's coming, someone trying to make sure no one does a Kennedy flipped his vote late in the Casey case and changed the outcome, or the court itself playing a PR game to see what public reaction to such a decision would be. Or it's just made up. Maybe it is, but honestly the writing for Roe was on the wall when SCOTUS decided Texas' probably unconstitutional abortion law could stand. They were basically saying they planned to overturn Roe v. Wade and the whole thing would become a moot point, conveniently informing us that they'd made up their minds even before arguments. Edit, I must admit, I really don't get Reddit or how this comment got so many upvotes. Seems unlikely somebody made up a 100-page legal opinion. And the court definitely knows what the reaction will be. This is just a leak. Sometimes people leak important news because it's important. Doesn't really require much more explanation than that. Honestly, it reads like Alito. Someone's either very committed, or it's real. If it's just a very committed person, kudos I guess? Right. The originalist bent is pretty easy to spot, and that's kind of Alito's bag. This would be one hell of a hoax from a talented lawyer if it turned out to be one. My wife had a miscarriage last year. Because we were well past the point of most miscarriages, not quite to the stillbirth cutoff, but not far away, we were told the odds of my wife passing the fetus on her own were slim and that surgery was the safest option. We were required by law to acknowledge in writing that the procedure would terminate the dead fetus and that it came at risk of infertility and death. Our doctor was required to tell us the developmental age of the dead fetus and which developmental milestones occur around that time, as well as offer us an ultrasound to see the dead fetus. We cried the entire time. We desperately wanted this child. Our doctor cried, apologizing every step of the way that we had to go through this insensitive bullshit on top of losing the pregnancy. This fetus was dead in every sense of the word, but because the procedure in question is also used for abortions, we had to jump through these goddamn hoops to avoid putting my wife's health at risk. And it's not like my state doesn't offer alternatives for non-viable fetuses, conception due to rape or incest, or instances where health is at serious risk. This was the alternative. If we were actually getting an elective abortion, it would have been significantly more time-consuming and soul-crushing. You literally have to take an online course. Abortion access in this country is already a joke. All this is going to do is get people killed. That's a heartbreaking story. I'm so sorry you had to go through that. You know who isn't sorry? The people who passed those cruel laws. The cruelty is the point. The whole quote about rape being an opportunity to be a parent comment sickened me to my core. It made me realize truly how cruel and awful these people are. It's just throwing shit at the wall to see what sticks at that point. Oh, you got shot in the eye and are now blind? Great opportunity to try out cosplaying as a pirate. Oh, your family died and now you're an orphan? Great time to learn about Annie. This pull yourself up by your bootstraps bullshit so no one else has to be brought in is so asinine. It's a disgusting and disgraceful comment. I have a foreboding of an America in my children's or grandchildren's time, when the United States is a service and information economy, when nearly all the manufacturing industries have slipped away to other countries, when awesome technological powers are in the hands of a very few, and no one representing the public interest can even grasp the issues, when the people have lost the ability to set their own agendas or knowledgeably question those in authority, when, clutching our crystals and nervously consulting our horoscopes, our critical faculties in decline, unable to distinguish between what feels good and what's true, we slide, almost without noticing, back into superstition and darkness. One of the saddest lessons of history is this: if we've been bamboozled long enough, we tend to reject any evidence of the bamboozle. We're no longer interested in finding out the truth. The bamboozle has captured us. It's simply too painful to acknowledge, even to ourselves, that we've been taken. Once you give a charlatan power over you, you almost never get it back. Carl Sagan, 1995. The foster care system is proof the government doesn't care about unwanted children yet want to force more to be born. It's all politics though. Guarantee if any of them ever got in a sticky situation, illegal or not, an abortion will be had available. THR healthcare system is also the same. Any child born with any health needs in minimum wage family is ducked. The unborn are a convenient group of people to advocate for. They never make demands of you, they are morally uncomplicated, unlike the incarcerated, addicted, or the chronically poor. They don't resent your condescension or complain that you are not politically correct. Unlike widows, they don't ask you to question patriarchy. Unlike orphans, they don't need money, education, or childcare. Unlike aliens, they don't bring all that racial, cultural, and religious baggage that you dislike. They allow you to feel good about yourself without any work at creating or maintaining relationships, and when they are born, you can forget about them, because they cease to be unborn. You can love the unborn and advocate for them without substantially challenging your own wealth, power, or privilege, without reimagining social structures, apologizing, or making reparations to anyone. They are, in short, the perfect people to love if you want to claim you love Jesus, but actually dislike people who breathe. Prisoners? Immigrants? The sick? The poor? Widows? Orphans? All the groups that are specifically mentioned in the Bible? They all get thrown under the bus for the unborn. Pastor David Barnhart. Or as George Carlin put it, more succinctly, if you're pre-born, you're great. If you're pre-K, you're ducked. He also said these people aren't pro-life, they're anti-woman. Child support payments better start at conception then. This will backfire terribly and not solve a ducking thing. Mexico recently decriminalized abortion. Coincidence? I think not. Now just wait for Mexican abortion clinics geared towards us citizens appearing all across Mexican border. A family friend is a dentist and has his clinic right across the border. Most of the customers are Americans coming there for super cheap dental work. He's legit, no worries. He's making bank. Needed a crown myself. US prices? $4K bucks. MX prices? $350. Guess where I went? They know what the people want and need. Sure enough, many doctors might start appearing to perform abortions, most probably. Next you know they'll pass laws for Border Patrol to start forbidding pregnant women from crossing the border to Mexico. If they haven't already thought about it. Edit, a few people have asked me about a good place to get dental work done. Let me just say that I live on a border town so I can cross whenever I want. If you need a lot of work done, you'd need to find a place to stay for a few days while you get it all done, so you might need to factor that in. Or the amount of driving back and forths you might need to do. Furthermore, there's a lot of dental clinics all along the border. I'd start Googling around and checking for reviews and going to one at a close enough distance to you. Regarding my family friend, he's located in Juarez, but I'm not super comfortable sharing those details online. I'd have to ask him. Hope everyone currently going through dental issues gets the help they need. Good luck out there. I know someone who had weight loss surgery in Mexico, and we live in Ohio. It was still cheaper that way. You think our social services are overwhelmed now? Get out your wallets, because there is about to be a generation of babies born where moms won't have the means to feed, clothe, and care for them. On top of that, most people will feel an absolute obligation to that baby they didn't want, and then after a few bad years, they'll give up the child to the state when it's past an easily adoptable age. So the child will most likely have an utterly horrible life. BC, they won't be adopted easily. Do conservatives adopt these older hard-to-home kids in huge numbers? Absolutely not. They talk a big game, but never do anything meaningful when it comes to adoption. So they love making a problem exceptionally worse and then doing absolutely nothing about it and then complain about the issues that arise from that problem. So typical conservative game plan. That baby they didn't want, and then after a few bad years, they'll give up the child to the state when it's past an easily adoptable age. That or will take their anger and frustration of their shitty life out on the child like my mom did. I was an accident, and my mom chose to keep me. She would tell me all the time how she regrets that choice and how I'm the reason her life is so bad. I'm definitely messed up in the head because of it. I attempted suicide twice in 2016, and have just been in a dull numbing pain trying to find validation that I'm worth it from anywhere I can get. Luckily my fiancé and his family adore me. I don't think I'd be here without them. You are valid and you are worth it. Always. Never forget that.